Hi, everybody. It's Andy from Inside the Music, and today I have Mark Anders. Uh, he's a self-producing songwriter, and he presides in not Nashville. I'm sorry. He presides in Tennessee. You can, if you can tell him where at if you want to, or if not, you can keep that a secret. But yeah, he's got some great music. And Mark, why don't you tell him exactly where they can find your music at?
The current stuff that I'm working on now is it's called Engines of Ruin, and you can find it on Spotify or YouTube or Apple or any of the platforms that are common and even not so common. There's a few things from a couple of years back that you can find on just my artist page, my Mark K Anders page. But the stuff that's kind of current and going on now, it's Engines of Ruin, and same website, enginesofruin.com. But it's all, you can pretty much find it all there. And we've got a new release coming out the 15th of
Oh,
this month. It's a song called All the Devils, features a singer out of Kentucky, a guy by the name of Ashton Blake, who sings in a rock band out of Kentucky called Native Sons. That's done some touring around the southeast. Well, and I think they even went out and did the whiskey thing out there in your state. Did the whiskey a go go deal out there, but he's a great singer, and I'm really happy with the way this song turned out. So real excited to see what people think of it when it hits here on the 15th.
well, I've heard many of your songs, and to me, it just brings me back to the stuff I used to listen to.
Yeah.
So it's in that era. I got my AC/DC shirt rolling on here right now, and the stuff I write now is nothing like I did back in the day. And you said whiskey a go go. I used to go down there and roadie for one of my good friends. It wasn't heavy metal stuff, but it was good rock blues, and his name's Sean Jones. And it was a lot of fun, man. I got some stories, but I won't bore you here with those today. But boy, do I got some stories from those days
The old
in
rock
LA.
days.
Yeah, yeah. So it was a lot of fun back in the days, and I'm sure you probably got a lot of stories too you could share. Yeah, in regards to playing in bands, and back in the 80s or 90s, or I don't know your age or
Yeah.
anything, but um, it's completely different nowadays than it was back then, I think, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the whole the whole music the music scenes have changed, the music business has changed. Of course that's life. Everything just keeps
Yeah,
on changing.
that it does, and you have to be willing to go with those changes, roll with them, you know, and
And that's a thing, that I think about, nowadays. It's like, I mean, and I guess we all do from time to time. Everybody complains about the music business nowadays and this and that. But, I think about too, everything's a give and take because, in one sense, some of the things that were great maybe about the old music business that are no longer around, we can kind of complain about those being gone. But then on the other hand,
yeah,
I think, well, nowadays, not that that's necessarily a perfect scenario, but nowadays, I can pretty much produce a
yes,
song at the house, put it out, and have people in Germany and
right.
Ukraine and globally listening to your music. Or back in the day, back
No,
in
it
the
was
80s, whenever, that was,
yeah,
unless you got lucky and had a major label contract. I
right,
mean,
right. You
so
had it.
there's a lot of things about the way things are now that are kind of cool.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. Back in the day, you put it on a cassette,
Yeah.
and you hand it out to your friends, and your group of friends, that's about who it went to. So,
Yeah, exactly.
you might have had a little tray set up there in front of you to sell, some stuff, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's completely changed. And I think it's, like you said, and for many of us, it's much easier now to actually get your stuff out there for people to listen to. So,
Hmm.
but all right, well, be sure everyone to check out Mark's stuff here, and I'll have a description down below where you can find his stuff too as well.
That's
And
right. Check
well,
it out.
you
Check it
got
out,
your
or you're dead to us.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, damn it.
So
Go right now. Pause this. Go check it out. Then
there you
then
go.
come back.
And then
Yeah,
come back and finish
yeah.
it.
And then when we're done, go and listen to it again.
Again, there you go. Absolutely. So I got your questions here. Now
All right.
I call this 5 and 5. So we're gonna have 5 questions where you can be as chatty as you like. And then we got 5 questions where you can either expand on them or you can just wrap it one answer questions or however you want to do it.
All right.
So that's why it's called 5 and 5.
5 and 5.
So let's get on to the first question, Mark. And what inspired you into self producing? And because you do self production, does it influence your songwriting at all?
I don't know that it really. Well, I started to say no, it really doesn't influence my songwriting, but in a sense, I guess the main way that it does influence it is I tend to be a very compositional writer in the sense that, generally most of the things that I write, I started out as a guitar player, and that, I mean, still essentially I'm a guitar player, although, I'll play bass and I'll, hack at a keyboard or synth part. I'm certainly not a piano player of any kind of sense, but if I need a synth part or something like that, I can, at least hack around and get that done too. But I'm primarily a guitar player, and the things I write generally start out on guitar. It'll be, a riff that catches my attention. It's like, or and or sometimes it'll be a riff that I hear in my head, and I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'll go to the guitar and figure it out and make sure that it is what I think it is in my head, and go from there. And I think the thing about, long story short, I think the thing about production that helps my songwriting is, I'll start mapping something out and laying the parts down, making a demo of it. And just, as I'm listening to it back, over the course of hours or days or weeks, however long it takes the idea to develop, um, just being able to pull it together. And well, and what I started to say earlier, when I tend to write, I tend to start hearing it in a band arrangement right away. Like I'll start hearing the drum part that I want with the riff and the bass part that's going to match it. And, is there a counter guitar part that goes against this part? So, all that starts to kind of come, and then I start trying to record it and put it down. And then I think where the influence on the songwriting comes is then when I start listening to all the parts back, it gives you that chance to sit back and hear it all and say, oh no, that doesn't work, and
Right.
that needs to be that, and this needs to be this, and oh, I hate that part the way it goes, so it influenced me from that standpoint of being able to listen things and refine things and fix things and try different things and see what's works best, I think.
Yeah, I'm guilty of all those things you said. Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly my start on guitar, and then I usually move the lyrics, and then I'll get on to Cubase and then start doing the production side of things.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm lucky because I have Sergio that after a while he'll get a hold of it and hey, no, this isn't right. We need to do this way, and then okay, let's try that. So I
Yeah.
don't, do you work with anybody else as far as when it comes to, or do you listen to anybody, your friends or anybody that might influence you to change something or?
It depends on the writing thing. There's been things that, that I have co-written with other people, and then you do that. And actually, Ashton that I mentioned that's singing on this song that's coming out, I wrote all of this song, but then we're looking at collaborating on some songs together and doing that whole thing. And I do enjoy that. I like um it can take you in some new directions that you didn't necessarily think of yourself when you have other
That's
people to say, well, what about this? What about that? And that sort of thing. So that is
right.
something that I enjoy, when you have somebody that you click with and you can,
Yeah, no, it's
you can freely criticize each other and or
exactly.
suggest, well, what
Right.
about this or that,
Right,
without
right. Yeah, yeah, and that's how Sergi and I work. We work
yeah,
really well together as far as that part goes. We check our egos out the door, and we're here to make good music, and that's
yeah,
what it takes. And we both put each other in check every so often. He does more of me
yeah.
because he's better at it than I am.
Well, you're probably just modest, but
No, no,
I
I'm not.
don't, I don't know. Did I stray off the original
No,
question there,
no,
or
no,
did I
you
get the
did.
whole?
No, you
Okay.
did. You got the whole enchilada there. So that's
If I stray too far, just remind me what the original question was, and I'll
no
circle
problem.
back around.
Oh boy. Well, let's go on to question number two. Now, can you walk us through your typical creative process when crafting a new song, from the initial inspiration to the final productive production? Is that
Yeah, I mean, and of course, it can vary a little bit from song to song, depending on how it starts. Like I say, the majority of them, like I mentioned, start on guitar, although there's been a few songs that I've written because I got a drum beat in my mind, and I'll lay down that drum beat and then write a guitar part that fits it or something like that. Or I'll, you know, on occasion I might have a lyrical idea and like, well, what the hell am I going to fit to that lyric? Because I've got no music in my head. So it can come from different directions. Although, like I say, most time it'll start on guitar, and then I'll have a drum beat in my head, like, oh, this guitar part's going to need this or that, and I'll start hearing the drum beat. I'll
right? Oh, did I lose you?
hear the bass part,
There
and
you
I'll
go.
just start laying it all down. Um, I usually demo the drums just on drum machine, and I've got a good friend, JL Bettis, that likes to lay down real drums for me. I'll send him the idea, and he'll kind of do his thing with it. That kind of things. How we typically do the drums. And I do the guitars and bass. Uh, can't sing worth a crap, so I'm always looking for singers to finish stuff. And the things, the recent songs, I had one that came out at the end of January. That was "Even Your Dog,"
What a
and
great
then
song, by the way.
oh,
That
thank you.
thing, man, that thing rocks, dude. I loved it from the get-go.
Oh, thank
It's
you. I
so awesome.
appreciate that. And
Yeah.
that was been doing good on the streaming numbers and stuff because that was really on this Engine of Ruins project. That was Engines of Ruin. That was really the first release on that. I had slipped out a instrumental song like I guess over a year ago that I just slipped out under that name, really just to get all the accounts set up, get the Spotify set up and all that. And I had this instrumental piece. I'm like, well, heck, that kind of fits, and I'll just put that out. I
I
really don't intend to do any other instrumental stuff
don't
in
know.
this thing. I really want it to be all
Uh,
with vocals because the end goal with it is to get the right to find the
right,
right front man and actually take it out and do it live and the
right,
whole shebang.
right.
Of course, right now, just trying to get some material out, but
Well,
put that song, put that song out in January, and then this one's coming out here in what is it, 10 or 11 days. And both of those songs I wrote completely. I just sent um, sometimes if I think there's something in the phrasing that might be weird or something, even though I hate to do that and hate to subject anybody to it, I'll sing it and send it to the guys. Like, don't
I was
don't get sick listening to me sing, but here's the melody and the phrasing. Other times I'll just play the melody on piano and send them that with the lyric sheet,
right,
and because it's,
right.
oftentimes it's pretty obvious how the lyrics match with the piano
Sure,
melody,
sure.
and I'll just do that so I don't even have to sing it, in the first place. And but like I say, those two I just wrote completely, melody and lyrics and music
Yeah.
and everything, and then just had the first single, "Even Your Dog," is actually a California boy sang on it. It's Emo Aladdin. Um, he probably plays somewhere close to you. Those guys are going all over the country. He fronts a Queen tribute band
Hmm.
that's just, I mean, they're out there killing it. They're like the number one Queen tribute band in the USA. They're called Kings of Queen. And anybody that's a fan of Queen music, the tribute band thing, I can
Right,
kind of
right.
give or take. Some of
That's
it
me.
I like, some of
Right,
it I think is kind of cheesy.
right.
And these guys, I've seen, a band that I was playing in actually got to open a couple of shows for them in Tennessee. So I got to see them a couple of times, and man, they just kill it.
Right.
And he is just an incredible front man. But anyway, he sang on that song, great voice. But if any of y'all out there, anywhere in the country, because they're going all over the place, they were just in Florida for a couple of dates here this last weekend. It's Kings of Queen.
I want to say they just played here locally up at one of the indie casinos that are close by.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it because they're
Yeah.
all over California and
Right.
everywhere else. I see them posting. They're anybody that's listening to this, go check out their Facebook. But if you want to see a great rock show and Queen music,
Yep.
and the thing about these guys too that's really cool is they're not doing any tracks. They're
Yep.
doing all the vocal harmonies and stuff live, none of this fake, tracks in the background
Sure.
stuff. So, and I really appreciate that too. That's one thing as far as live music, and I'm going off on a tangent here,
It's
but that,
okay. That's what
man,
this
this whole
what it's
thing
for.
with bands playing the tracks, and I never thought, especially in like the hard rock and metal music, I never thought a day would come that would even be accepted,
No. Mm-mm.
and it's just like, for some bands and some audiences, that's just becoming the norm, and I
I,
hate it,
and I
it's
and
like,
I wonder, Mark, if that might be because a lot of the venues don't allow you to bring your own equipment anymore. You got to hook up through their PA system, and all you get all they allow you to bring is your floor for
yeah.
guitar players. And so I wonder if that has a lot of influence on because they can go that routing that they you know what, well, let's just bring our other tracks in and we'll get the ones we got off the internet somewhere and we'll include those with us. And so I wonder if that has a lot to do with that. I have I know somebody that's in a that does copy music. I call it copy music.
Mhm.
Tribute stuff,
Yeah.
and I know they use backing tracks.
Yeah.
And I've never asked them. I probably should venture down that road and ask them. If as long as it doesn't piss them off. But but it is interesting because yeah, I'm like you. I would have never thought that would be something that you would see either
Well, I mean,
or hear.
I mean, I can see maybe to an extent the thing about gear. I think, more than anything, it just boils down to not being able to pull it off, whether it be there's background vocals or synth parts or whatever that you need to pipe in to fill the
Right.
song out. I just, and I mean, maybe, I guess there's some justification that, oh, well, we're doing our audience a favor because we're making it sound better. And for certain audiences, maybe because, maybe
Yeah,
for certain things, it's really not.
I
But,
think I
as
think
far as myself, when I go see a band, I want to see a band and I
yeah,
want to hear,
I want to
you
feel it.
know,
That's the thing too,
yeah,
is that I think a lot of it has to do with because of they have a level of sound they can only push out. There's only so many dBs they can go up to. So especially in a casino atmosphere, because they might be playing at in a venue that they don't want all that music being pushed out in the casino for
yeah.
whatever reason or whatever. But
Yeah. Well,
you
and
know,
and it's interesting because I've seen a thing with some bands on the local level that really don't need to do tracks and a click track and in-ear monitors and all that stuff. And they're doing it because I think they've got it in their head that that's the way the pros do it
right.
nowadays. So they're
Yeah.
getting up there and they're playing to a click and they're maybe, maybe or
Right.
maybe not, piping a few things in. And I went and saw a band the other night, and it was kind of a shame because they actually had. It was an original band. They had really good material. The songs were well crafted, and it was good players. But the kind of takeaway that I had from it, the thing that disappointed me about their set, is it was very like stiff and lacked energy. And I think it
Original.
was because they were playing to a click,
Yeah.
because they were paying too much attention to, oh, we all got to stay together,
Right.
instead of just getting up there and going for it and rocking out.
Yeah.
And like I say, it was really like, man, it was like, gosh, why did they do that? Because like I say, the material was good, the players, the singer, the front man was good, but it was just so stiff and lacking in energy. And I think it was 100% because they were playing to a click. And
Yeah.
like I say, they didn't need to. They weren't piping in enough stuff. It was just like I say, it was one of those things where it's like, oh, we read or saw, online where,
Hmm.
Disturbed or who, these big touring bands are playing
Right.
the click, and maybe Disturbed's not. Maybe I should back up and say, I might have just stepped in there. But anyway, some
Right.
big touring band that's
Right.
playing to a click track and piping in stuff and they read, oh, everybody's using in-ear monitors and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And it's like, dude, you're playing a local club. Just get up there in front of the wedges and rock out,
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
And
Let,
so
let that let
anyway,
that
enough.
music come back at you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So anyway, enough of my tangent there. But
It's all right. That's what this is out. That's
yeah,
what this 5 and 5. You get
yeah,
as long as you want on the first five.
yeah.
You can go as long as you want on the second five, but it should be shorter. But anyway, it's all good, man. All good. Let's go on to question number 3 here. What challenges do you face both songwriting and being a self producer, and and do you navigate them to maintain your artistic vision, or how do you navigate them to maintain your artistic vision? Sorry about that.
Navigation. I think the biggest challenge that I always have to navigate is the fact that I don't sing well. I
Let's
just
touch base on
don't.
this. Let's take a moment and touch base on this,
Uh,
because like you, I'm not a good singer. And so what I found easiest for Linda is when I can, sing, and I'll do a quick recording of myself singing on it just to give her an idea what, but she takes it and completely changes my,
right.
rough mix of myself. But and you were saying you use a piano. Unfortunately, I'm not a piano player. I can't do that, and my skill level is not enough to go on the guitar and
Well, in my piano, you know, putting down a vocal melody, it's this. It's not playing
it's not
piano.
it's not all 10 fingers going like
No,
crazy, huh?
no. It's just here's the melody, and I'll put it in time, but it's not playing piano. But
Yeah.
it's more of a, I guess it's more of a frustration of not having, because it's like every other part of it, I've pretty much got instant access to.
Mhm.
And I mean, I've got instant access to, if I just wanted to lay something down, yeah, I can sing on it, but I can't, it's like the
Yeah.
old Clint Eastwood, a man's got to know his limitations. I know that under no circumstance should I release something with me
No.
singing on it. So that's the frustration of, it's like, well, I know if I'm going to put this song out, I have to find somebody to sing on it, and then I
Right,
have to
right.
wait for them to get it done. And so it's
Yeah.
always, it's like when I want to do something, I just do it,
Right,
but
right, right.
anytime you involve another person, then you have to
Sure.
involve, and
The time
yeah,
frames.
yeah,
Yeah.
and
Yeah. So it's funny because I've sent stuff to Sergio, and then what he's done, he's manipulated my voice. So he calls me Lady Andy. Oh, this is because to match it for Linda to sing.
yeah,
So he calls me Lady Andy. Oh, this is Lady Andy. It's pretty
yeah.
funny. We have a good
Well,
time with it.
and that's, and I've actually started doing that now because then I can halfway tolerate to listen to it. I
Right.
found this website, I think it's called Kits AI, and it's this artificial intelligence stuff where they have different singers that you can pick,
Is
and
that right?
you can put your file in, and then it'll redo your voice in, so it keeps your phrasing and your melody,
Oh my
but it
gosh.
basically puts a different person's voice on it. And it's really pretty interesting because I found a guy that's they actually added a new voice a couple of weeks ago that they call it's called like strained male rock or gritty male rock or something like that, and it's kind of their imitation of like a, you know,
Hmm.
Lane Staley, Chris Cornell, that kind of
Sure.
90s kind of gritty rock voice. So I can record myself and then put that AI voice on it and kind of make it sound halfway decent. You know.
Nice.
So now if they get that good enough, I guess I'll have to quit complaining about the bands that are out there faking it to trash. Because if they get the AI technology good enough, then I'll take my voice and correct it with the AI, and then I'll release stuff myself and cheat myself. So I'll have to eat my own words on cheating. But
Hey, whatever works. There are no rules. There's no rules.
yeah,
Whatever works, works, right?
I don't know.
That's how you look at it.
I don't know.
So, but question four.
All right.
All right. In what ways do you think self-producing your music allows you more creativity and freedom compared to working with an external producer?
Well, I guess the easy answer is just, I can do what I want to do and I don't
Yeah.
have to listen to anybody else, and that's neither good nor bad, and that's one thing, I met you through Warren's community, through
Mhm.
Produce Like a Pro, and you know, that doesn't get in so much to, as you're well aware, that sharing tracks on there and getting feedback on it, it tends to be more mix focused and somewhat production focused. People are generally
Right.
reticent to say, oh, your guitar part totally sucks, or stuff like that, or,
Yeah,
or
you're
gosh, I
you're
hate your songwriting. It's like your stuff sounds good, but your songs are terrible. You don't get that so much on there, but
right, right.
at least having that forum gives me a chance to, uh, you know, put things out there and get things back like, oh, your snare drum's too loud, or your
Right,
kick
right.
drum needs more body. And so at least from that production side of it, and there are times, and of course, I know, anybody that's not familiar with that community is going to wonder what the heck I'm talking about. But as Warren often will say,
Right.
oh, well, this intro could have been shorter, or, your verse, could have did this or that. So you do sometimes get
Right.
things that are songwriting related too. But yeah, I guess to go back to your question, I mean, if I remember what the question was, yeah, it's just that freedom of,
Yeah.
well, hey, I've got an idea, I can do it right now,
Right.
and I can do it the way I think it needs to be done. And then if I listen back to it later and
Yeah.
it's like, well, no, that kind of sucked, then I can go and try and change it, or I can just toss it in the garbage can and go on to something else.
Yeah, I've been there, done that. So many times. And touch base on your answer to the first question is that, you're you said you start with guitar, and that's what I do too. So and so I've totally lost concentration where I was going with this.
Yeah, well,
my
and
wife just
and
my wife just called me on my phone, so I had to so
yeah.
let's back this up a little bit here. I'll edit this part out. But
And I guess to clarify a little bit about on the starting with guitar thing, and I'll say this with a grain of salt because there's the old argument that well, there's just 12 notes and pretty much everything's already been done, and there's a certain underlying truth to that, but
mhm,
the the things that I write, or the things that I'll stick with and say, oh, well, I got to do something with that, is when I hit on something and I think, oh, that's a little bit different, or at least to me. And
mhm,
somebody else may hear it and say, oh, well, that sounds like such and such over there. But at least to me, when the guitar is in my hand, a riff or an idea will hit me, and I'm like, oh, well,
yeah,
that's a little different. I really look for stuff that you know doesn't sound
that's
hopefully doesn't sound like everything else. I want it to be a little bit unique in some way. And
right.
that, like I say, that's not to say that it'll hit the
Resonate to
listener
something
that way,
different, but
but
yeah,
yeah, but to me, it's like, oh, that's
that's
interesting, and I'll go on with it from there. But anyway,
that's that's where I was going with that whole thing, was that I started on guitar, and like you just said, I find something that I find interesting for myself first off, and
yeah,
a lot of the writing I do is for myself, not wanting everybody in the world to hear it or listen to it or whatever, but for me, I think it sounds great. I think it's something that I would listen to on the radio, so therefore I keep it going.
right,
So that's how I kind of go about my whole songwriting technique.
yeah,
Is if I have to like it first
yeah,
in order for it to get past the next step.
yeah.
So, and yeah, and then there's many times where there's many stuff that gets left on the floor, as they say.
Oh yeah, the old cutting room floor. Yeah.
Yep, that's very true. So, all right. Well, question number 5. How do you balance your technical aspects of producing with emotion and expression elements of your songwriting? Um, how does this balance contribute to the overall sound and feel of your music? Now, I know your music is on the rock side, and
Mhm.
believe me, rock and roll is full of emotion. So do you have a tendency to maybe influence emotional more through the lyrics you write, or do you think it's a balance between guitar and the lyrics, or do you think that singers should be able to do that type of you know
I don't know, Andy. I think it's in the whole thing. I mean, sometimes the emotion might be in the kick drum, or it could be, and I try to, I like things in general. Well, and again, this is just generalizing because that that song that we mentioned, Even Your Dog, that came out back in January, it pretty much just rocks from start to
it
finish.
does.
It's kind of like
Yes.
no pause, no break. It's like you're in it and then
Yep.
you're done.
Right. Right.
I mean, there's a little break here and there where it stops and then it's back in. But a lot of the things I write will be more dynamic, where there might be a, you know, there might be an intro that's one mood, and then the verse, might be a little sweeter, softer, and the chorus heavier and harder, and so more ups and downs, and even ups and downs in tempo, even throughout the song. Sometimes it'll pull back in certain sections and speed up even in other sections. And so I try to capture whatever dynamic I think fits the song. And sometimes that's a bit of a challenge.
Oh, I lost you. Nope.
Am I
There you
with you?
are. There
Oh,
you are.
okay. I think I hit something, accidentally muted us there. But
So,
sometimes that's a challenge where it's like, you're working on a production,
mhm.
and the chorus hits, and it's like, gee, that's just dead. It's not hitting me like I want it to hit. And so
Right,
then
right,
you've got to figure out, well, what is it about it that's holding it back?
right,
And so sometimes that's a challenge, is just trying to make it have that
right,
effect and that emotion that you want it to have.
right. Yeah, there
So,
there've been a lot of times when I write lyrics and then we go to uh, get Linda involved with it and scrap the whole lyric and go in and rewrite the whole thing lyrical. So, and that even changes the melody of the whole thing because it just
yeah,
wasn't working out.
yeah,
I had a
it
good idea,
happens.
but it just didn't pan out that way. So
It happens.
it does happen, and but that's part of this process.
Yeah,
Mistakes are here for us to learn from.
yeah,
And boy, do I make a lot of them, and boy, do I learn a lot.
yeah.
So,
Well, and it's enjoying, and I guess, obviously you run into those frustrating moments where things don't seem to be working, but
right.
by and large, um, I love the creative process. A lot of times when I'm working on something, it just keeps going and going, because it's like, okay, well, now I got the verse laid down, man. I can't wait to get in and double that chorus riff, or whatever's on your
Yeah.
mind,
Right,
or
right, right.
can't wait to uh, you know process that kick drum and make it slam, or just whatever happens to be on your mind at the moment. It's like there's just always something fresh to
Right,
do,
right.
and
Yeah, backups for me, I usually end up coming up with the backups while I'm driving in my car, listening to the scratch track of it, and that's where I find a lot of my working on that type of thing. It comes into influences when I'm driving and listening to it. Not in the studio. It's completely away from the studio. I have a tendency to be a little more creative in that aspect when it comes to that type of stuff.
yeah. I
So,
don't I don't do really much like what I'd call writing in the car, but I'll do a lot of mix checking in the car. I'll do a lot of
yep.
if the wife and I are going somewhere, we'll stick the latest mix in, and it's like, oh, that vocal's too loud, or it's like, everything, you always pick up different things in the car than you do, in the headphones or the studio monitors and what have you, and usually you get somewhere in the middle to where it sounds
Yes,
sounds sounds right here, but also sounds right in the car, and somewhere in that middle ground's usually about right.
that's correct. That's correct. So, well, let's move on to the five rapid fire questions here. So, because you're a self-producer, songwriter, what do you like more, mixing or mastering?
Mixing.
Yeah, me too. Something about, getting everything to where it sets nice. That's
Yeah.
what I like about it. There's more, um, maybe because I haven't got into mastering all that much either, but um, I don't know. I think a good mix sometimes doesn't need a master either. So,
True. And I use, well, and to kind of expand on your point there, I think I think a lot of the things, and of course, I'm sure somebody that's a pro at mastering, would tell me why I'm wrong really quick. But, most of the things I put so much detail work into my mixes that I think most of them are pretty much done when they're mixed. And, from my standpoint, doing self production and doing mastering, which I'm sure a true mastering engineer would tell me real quick that I'm not really mastering, and I wouldn't argue with that. I don't know what you use, but I use Ozone. I use
Sure.
Ozone to master with, and basically what I do that works for me in that is I'll put the mix in Ozone and I'll use their
Sure.
AI
Right.
assistant thing first,
Right.
see what it does, but then I'll go in and look at each element of what it puts, what it says, oh, well, this is what it should be. And I'll say, okay, well, I'll trust you, but I'll trust but verify, as they say. I'll go into each element of it and see what it's doing,
Yep.
turn it on and off, and see if I agree with what it's doing. And if I don't, I'll tweak it.
Yep.
So I find that for me as a self masterer to be a pretty good system to start with
Yep.
their AI thing, let it do its thing and let it say, oh, this is what it should be according to Ozone. But then, like I say, I'll go into each element that's
Right.
in there and double check it and, you know, make sure that I agree with them,
Yeah.
and then I find the end result of doing that to at least work for me without having to go hire somebody and pay somebody for mastering. And of course, if I watch this, a few years down the road or something, I might say, God, what an idiot I was. I'm glad that I'm hiring this guy over here now to master for me. So,
Exactly.
we always
Yep.
learn as we go along, but that's
Yep.
what's working for me right now.
Yeah, I find the tonal balance from
Yeah.
Ozone has been an eye opener for me. And you're supposed, everyone says mix with your ears, but when you see and you have when you can see a reference track that you like and you're trying to get your mix close to, man, it helps out visual. The visual
Yeah.
helps out so much to see where, well, I thought I had enough on there, but I don't, or maybe I had too much. I guess I had too much on there. So to me, it's a great tool.
Yeah. Well,
It's
and,
really
and
opened
like
my
you,
eyes up a lot.
yeah, and like you say, you don't want to be a visual mixer, as they say, but
Mm-mm.
having tools like that and being
Yeah,
able to see something and say, well, you
yeah,
know, they're saying this right here
right.
could be an issue. Well, then you can go back and look into
To
it
it and find
and
it.
check into it and say, oh, well,
Yeah.
yeah, they were kind of right. Now that I knew to look for it,
And but not only that, but it also helps your ears too,
yeah,
because the more you see it and you realize, oh, now I can pick out things a lot faster
yeah,
and correct them a lot easier. Not and sometimes not even having to go into tonal balance.
yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So that's my thing.
No, I
So
agree. I agree.
okay. So next question: what's your favorite instrument? Do you have one on your what's your favorite guitar? Which one is it? Blue guy?
Oh, man, favorite guitar would be hard to say because I've got too many of them.
How many do you possess?
I lost count. I not. I don't have
You have
like
a
a.
harem of guitars then? Is that
Nah, I
what
mean, I've got a dozen or more, or
yeah.
something like that. I mean, it's not ridiculous, but actually, this one right here is
Mm-hmm.
really cool. I just got this one. I've got it's a PRS. I've got a
Mm-hmm.
guitar that looks very, very similar to this one. That's a USA made PRS that I got eons ago. And I'd actually still been carrying it out, playing some shows with it and stuff. And I'd been thinking for a long time, but man, I really shouldn't be
Mhm.
shouldn't be taking this guitar out to these clubs and stuff
Mhm.
because
Right, right,
no
right.
matter what, you always end up at some point at the night you're separated from your
Hmm.
guitar, and it
Right,
would be
right.
very easy for you to be permanently separated from your guitar. And so I've been thinking for a long time about me.
Yeah.
Really ought to. And I've been looking at these. This is the SE series, their import series.
Sure.
This blue one here,
Very familiar with them.
and I got this when Sweetwater was running a big sale
Hmm.
because apparently they all these guitar manufacturers. I've been seeing stuff where kind of end of last year and first of this year, a lot of the stuff was kind of being blown out because
Right.
a lot of the manufacturers where they get in their order cycle, a lot of them had put in like huge orders
Yeah.
with their overseas plants because of all the COVID upswing in guitar purchases. Well, of
Hmm.
course, now that COVID's kind of waned, that's slowed down. The guitar market's slowed down some.
Right.
All of them had this big glut of guitars coming in from overseas. So they had a big sale running on these, and I was just like, I told the wife, I said, I really ought to probably jump on one of these because these probably won't be this cheap again. And they were
No.
like cheaper than used ones were selling for on Reverb.
Yeah.
And and she said, well, what's your USA one worth now? And I said, well, I really don't even know because I bought it so long ago. And so I typed in, the current and pulled up and it was like, yeah, I can't take this guitar because the brand new one's like,
Right. Right.
and
Right.
I was
Right.
like, I couldn't replace it because I bought that guitar so long ago. It's like
Right.
cheap compared to what they are nowadays because
Hmm.
the guitar market prices have gone up so much. So anyway, long story short, I've been using that guitar a lot because it sounds great, plays great. The
Yeah.
last couple of demos that I've done with it, I've actually been using that import SE PRS instead of my US one, just because I got it and I was enjoying playing it so much. But so that's been a current favorite. Like I say, I've got a lot of guitars that
Yeah.
I would consider equal to that, and
Yeah. I
several
think,
guitars that I like that are just unusual things that I don't use that often. Like I've got it's kind of over to the side here, but I've got a Gretsch baritone that I'll use to like double tracks and things, and I've got a Dan Electro 12 string
oh, that's
that I'll
interesting.
use sometimes. Yeah, that's a cool piece. And, anytime you need that like Jimmy Page 12 string sound, I love it for that. So, kind of some quirky sort of oddball guitars that I really enjoy, when they fit into something.
Right, right. That's a great. I actually had the honor, or shouldn't say the honor, but I did get a chance to play a PRS acoustic.
Yeah.
And I wasn't expecting it to sound so as good as it did.
Yeah.
I was
And
actually kind of blown away at the quality, at the price point.
yeah.
And it wasn't an American made; it was one from
Right.
Korea.
Yeah. I think,
But
and I,
played nice.
yeah. And I think and I'm not sure if, I may be wrong on this. I think all their acoustics are imported, but now I may be
I,
wrong. Maybe they're doing some US production on them now.
That's a good question. I don't know. I just, I have to look into that myself because
Yeah.
I did really like it. I'm a big Breedlove acoustic player. I
Yeah.
really love Breedlove, but the PRS just had a little bit thicker, chunkier neck
Yeah.
than the Breedlove does, and
Yeah.
it's a little wider. So, but
Yeah.
anyways,
The quality, the quality on some of these import instruments is just, over the top. It's
right,
just, it
right.
amazes you, how good they are. And don't get me wrong. I mean, I love U.S. built instruments, and I
Mhm.
support
Sure.
U.S. stuff whenever I can. But it's like, geez, sometimes it's like, well, I'm either going to take out a loan and get this guitar, or
Yeah,
I'm gonna. And of course, you're still supporting a U.S. company, so there's
sure.
that. But
Yep. Right.
and obviously, they wouldn't import them if they didn't want to sell them. So
Right, right, right. I agree. All right. Question number three. Do you have a specific ritual or routines that help you get into your creative mindset, writing or producing a song? Or you just pick up a guitar and start playing.
Yeah, just show up and start playing. I think the thing that
Guilty of that too.
I think the thing that has inspired probably more of the songs or song ideas that I've started, always, and you're probably the same way. I always have a big pile of ideas that aren't complete songs yet. It's like,
Hmm.
some things I've laid down, but it just hasn't gotten to that point where, oh, well, this is a verse and I've got the perfect chorus to go with it.
Right, right,
Sometimes it's just like, it's not quite there, but this song I can finish, so I'll jump
right.
over here. But probably one of the biggest things that has influenced and impacted my songwriting of late has been alternate tunings.
Oh,
Because
interesting.
there's been several um, situations. Well, it's come from different places. Several of the things have been, well, like the song that I was actually working on a song pretty much all day today, a new demo before I had this appointment with you. Um, and it came from, I was listening to, a lot of times when I'm just working, doing like office kind of work, I'll just have Spotify on playing,
Hmm.
just, looping stuff just in the background. And there was a Soundgarden song came on, and the chord progression just caught my ear. And, I was like, well, hey, that's kind of a unique sound. And I just made a mental note. I want to go back later and figure out what that is,
Hmm.
And I actually got a chance a few days later. I'm like, hey, let me go back and pull that Soundgarden song up that I heard the other day and figure out what the heck they're playing there. And when I got in, started figuring out it's in open C tuning, and I had never played in that tuning before. Um, and
Wow.
so, I sat down, figured out the song, kind of transcribed it and enjoyed that. Well, then as I'm sitting there fooling with the guitar in that tuning, I started coming up with riffs of my own that like, and I just kept a guitar in that tuning because I was enjoying, because it takes you out
Sure,
of,
your normal element.
nothing is familiar anymore.
Hmm.
So, and I find it actually changes my writing because I'm writing all
Off
by
the ear.
ear, because
Right,
I'm not falling into any familiar patterns.
right.
And it's like, you'll find something. It's like, oh, that sounds good. And it's like sometimes it's like I'm not even sure what chord it is, and until I go back later and what are those notes? Oh, that's a whatever chord.
Yeah.
And but and you end up, because you find something, it's like, well, okay, what's going to go with that? And then you're searching for something else, and that it's really been an eye-opening experience. So I fell into a couple things from that standpoint. There was um, a Led Zeppelin tune that was in Dad Gad tuning,
Mhm.
which I had never really, I knew what it was, but I'd never
Right.
really fooled with it before, and I started writing some stuff in that.
Yeah.
Even Your Dog, the song that we talked about before, um, it's in, well, of course, there's how many billions of people in the world. Maybe somebody else did it, but it's in a tuning that I've never seen before, because that song came about. I've always been a Cheap Trick fan.
Love
And
them.
there's a couple of Cheap Trick songs. Of course, I can't think of the name of them off the top of my head right now. But where, like if they're on an E chord or whatever, the whole riff is just Rick kind of inverting the chord up and down the
Hmm.
neck. And I
Hmm.
always liked that, because when I was a kid, I didn't understand. I'd listen to that song. I was, oh, that's cool.
Hmm.
And if you don't really, if you're not into music and you don't know anything about it, you think, oh, it's a different chord up and down the neck. But what it really is he's just inverting. If he's on an E chord, he's just
Right.
going through like the melody in 1, 3, 5, 7, whatever,
Hmm.
inverting the chord. And the whole even your dog thing came into my mind because I had an idea. It kind of came into my head first. It's like, well, hey, what if I did that descending? A lot of his go up the neck. And I was like, I'd like to do something going down, and I'd like to be it kind of low tuned. And so I've got another baritone guitar besides that Gretsch. I already had it tuned low. I'm like, well, what if I start on the fifth and go to the third and then go to the root note and actually
Mhm.
start on the fifth so people don't really know that the root's coming, that they haven't heard the root note yet. And so I was doing that 5-3 open. And then I thought, well, okay, now I need to flesh it out and make it a chord. And I thought, well, what notes can I put with that where I can just slide that fifth, third, and open down the neck, but have something interesting over the top of it? And so I just started experimenting with the tuning until I found notes that I liked on each chord. And it ended up being the guitar tuned open is tuned to a B9, like a B dominant B7-9. And I thought, well, who in the world would do that? But it
But
worked
you.
for that riff.
Right.
And it's like that was the most oddball thing, but it was just having an idea and searching and say, oh well, yeah, I could tune this string to that, and I could tune this string. That sounds good with this, and that sounds good with that. And that's how that whole riff came about. And I think if you just listen to the song, it just sounds
Works.
like,
Natural.
it doesn't sound like what the hell is
No.
that guitar part's doing, unless you sat down and tried to figure out the guitar part, and then you'd
Right.
probably be like, how in the hell is he putting those notes together like that? Because there'd be no way to do it in any other tuning that I've ever seen.
Right,
So
right. That's
so
interesting.
anyway, so now when y'all go back and listen to Even Your Dog, you can listen to that chord change that opens the tune, and you can see if you pick out if it hits you that it's a strange tuning, because it's an extremely strange tuning.
But sounds right to the ear. That's what,
Yeah, I
that's
think well, or
yeah.
I think so. Everybody else
No,
might
it
say,
does.
"God,
It
that sounds
does.
terrible."
Nope, nope. It's on my favorites list. So yeah, it sounds great.
Awesome. Well, thank you, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, here's the last question for you.
And your quick five wasn't all that quick when you're talking to me. I think I turned those as
That's okay. That's
longer than the first
Well,
five.
that's why I told you you can either answer them short
Yeah,
or you can go with them. That's I don't no rules, as
that's
just like in
cool.
mixing, no rules here.
Yeah, hopefully I'm not setting a time record on duration here
No,
for you.
no, you're fine. We're all good. We're all good. Okay. Can you share a tip or a piece of advice for aspiring self-producing songwriters?
Hmm. Well, learn your DAW, you know. Um, get as good as you can with your DAW. Um, experiment. Um, train your ear to frequencies. Use a spectrum analyzer and pull up a solo guitar track and highlight a narrow frequency band and scroll through and see what different instruments sound like at different frequency points. I think that's a real important thing is to train your ear to what 5K is and what 1K is, and not in like a perfect pitch kind of scenario where I'm not saying somebody plays you a tone and you go, oh, that's 1K. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about just in general, because as like we've talked about, you're dealing with a mix or something, you hear something
Hmm.
that's kind of poking out funny or something, you know,
Yep.
familiarity with that, where to start looking,
Yep.
oh, well, that's somewhere around 3 to 5K, or that's,
Right.
so, just experience, listening to and I think it's even handy to you know, pull up a just a song that you like, whether it be Soundgarden or the Eagles or
Yeah.
Led Zeppelin or whoever, and do that with popular songs. Take a frequency band and sweep through and see what exists, in
Yeah.
those different frequency bands, and just that is an eye opener for somebody that's new to it, or maybe somebody that hasn't thought,
I
in that
agree.
standpoint, and over time you'll get uh, I just think as you get in and start messing with it and experiment with it, and don't be,
Right.
like I listen to things, I really didn't get into, um, well, I'll say seriously, as far as the modern way of doing it,
Hmm.
a DAW in a
Hmm.
computer, you know, guys, kind of our age, we grew up, production back in the
Hmm.
day for me was a 4-track
That's right.
Porter studio, the
Yep.
old cassette Porter
Yep.
studio. And of course, there's a little bit that you can do with that, but there's a whole lot you can't do with it, and
That's very true.
it was only 3 or 4 years ago that I'm like, well, you know what? I'm going to get me a damn, 'cause I was clueless. I had been out of it so
Yep.
long. I didn't even know what a doll was. Somebody could have said, "Oh, you need to
I,
get a doll," and I'd have said, "What the hell's a doll?"
no, yeah, same boat here.
And,
Hmm.
which, if anybody's watching this and doesn't know what the hell a doll is, it's digital audio workstation, which
There you
just
go.
means software in your computer that you're using to
That's
record
right.
and mix and produce music.
That's right.
But anyway, I had no clue,
Yep.
what the current thing was,
Yeah.
So I just started researching like, oh, well, okay. And I need a computer and I need this software and then I can at least get started. So, I'm
Which
3 or 4 years in, and I mean, just
mhm.
thinking what I know now compared to what I knew 3 or 4 years ago, and I listen to things that I produced or attempted to produce 3 or 4 years ago, and it's like, oh gosh, that really sucked, and I'm at least doing better now. So
It's
in some
fun.
ways, it kind of scares you to put something out now because it's like, well, maybe 3 or 4 years later, I'm going to think, oh, that stuff you did in 2024 was just crap. But that's the
Yeah.
way it goes. You
It's
just have to,
evolution. That's
yeah, you just
evolution,
have
baby.
to, you just have to do what you can do.
So
But
what dog choice did you pick end up with?
I ended up with Studio One,
Oh.
and I love it. Of course, now, I'll say that with the caveat that I don't know anything else either. So, but
Yep.
I'm kind of glad that I did Studio One, just because when I see, and no offense to that company or anybody that uses that product, but when I see how expensive Pro Tools can be, I'm kind
Yeah.
of glad I went with Studio One.
Right.
But no, it works. It works great for me. Does everything and more that I need it to do. So
Right.
I can't complain on that. And really, it was just luck of the draw because, well, actually, I'll tell you how I got into Studio One, because I had an old Roland, the
Hmm.
VS 2480, the Roland
It came with
digital
a free.
studio thing, the
It
big
came.
mixer, little
Right. Right.
tabletop looking thing. And that's what I had messed around with before going the DAW route. And I had actually contacted um, a sales guy that I bought a few things from Sweetwater about something that I was looking to do in relation to that. And he was like, "Oh, by the way, you really ought to get Studio One. You're working with that old Roland, VS thing." And I'm like, Studio One, what's that? You know, and that's when I kind of
Yep.
started researching it, you know, and I'm like, well, you know, that looks pretty good. I probably could do a whole hell of a lot more with that than I'm doing, you know, messing around with this. Of course, I wasn't doing anything serious at the time
Right.
so it really didn't matter. But you know, I knew just, you know, kind of researching. It's like, well, yeah, you know, I could do a hell of a lot more with that than I can with the, nothing against a Roland VS 2480 because it was a fine unit for what it did and
Hmm.
for its time and all that. But,
Yep.
you know, you're talking
Yeah.
about, you know,
It was
the
an eye
difference
opener,
between,
complete
yeah,
eye
you know,
opener. You
yeah.
know, I
So,
got into Cubase and not by because like you, I didn't know. I went down the Guitar Center. I said, "Yeah, I want to get into recording music," and I was looking at a Tascam digital, you know,
yeah,
and the guy says, "You don't want that. You know, you need to get into you need a DAW." And I go, "I don't like you. What's that?" So he
yeah,
walked me over to the counter and hands me a box and had the CD in it, you know. And he goes, "This is what you need. You got a laptop?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Just put that in the laptop and it'll load up and you know, you figure it out from there."
yeah.
I
Because, you
got
know, I
home.
came out of, you know, I even had many years ago, I had a false start with the old Mackie stuff, you know, the HD, you
Hmm.
know, like kind of similar to the, what was it, the Elisa ADAT
Hmm.
stuff, you know, it was kind of the Mackie, you know, that used a hard drive and, you
Right,
know, how it
right.
had the big Mackie mix. And hell, I never could even get that stuff to work together. You know, it's like,
Yeah,
screw this, you know, it's like,
right.
I can't, you know, I couldn't even. So, you know, when it came
Yeah,
to the, you know, computer thing, it was like, you know, like I say, I was just a total new to it. I didn't even
yeah.
know what, I had been out of it for a while and I didn't even know
Me
what
too.
the thing was,
Right.
you know. So I had to go looking because I'm like, well, if it's anything like that junk that I tried, you know, 15 years ago or whenever it was, I don't
Wasting my
want no
money.
part of it, you
Right,
know.
right.
But
Yeah.
but you know, so yeah, to find, like I say, you know, there's always things that you miss about the
Right.
old music business, but man, there's so many things that are just, wow,
Wonderful.
this is so much better, you know.
It's very
and
true.
and the whole thing with dolls in computers
Yep.
for old guys like me is just, it's amazing, you know.
No, it is.
Somebody that's just coming into it new, you know. I wish they could transport back to 1982 and have a Tascam Porta Studio and realize how lucky they've got it, you know.
Yeah. No, it's true. And then you got YouTube out there giving all the lessons. So, you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, shoot.
Yeah,
We didn't have none of
manufacturers
that.
don't even have to write owner's manuals anymore
No,
because
uh-uh.
100 people are going to have how-tos on everything, in
Right.
everything, before they even get
Uh,
the product
it
on the
it's
market
it's a
almost.
it's a race for YouTubers to get the, you know, their hands on everything first to get it out
Yeah,
there first. So, but
something else.
yeah, well, I hope you had a good time here today.
Absolutely.
You know, this is great. This is my our first time actually meeting face to face, you know,
Yeah.
or on a video anyways. We chatted on a couple times via Messenger and through also Produce Like a Pro. So it's really fun to actually see people and talk to them and to get their to get to know their story.
Yeah.
And you know, and a good story yours is. So,
Yeah. Well, I
you know.
appreciate that. Well, and that was the other thing that I'll add on your last question about, you know,
Mhm.
advice for people is, you know, like you and I found, you know, I would encourage people to get into a community like Produce Like a Pro,
Absolutely.
or somewhere where they can get feedback from peers like that, because it's really invaluable to
And
get other people that are doing what you're doing and get their ears on it.
yep,
And you know, they can
that's
save you a lot of time. And, oh,
so
well, you know,
true.
you really ought to kind of pay
Yeah.
attention to this here or that there, you know, things that you maybe didn't even consider,
And
very,
the feedback that goes on with that community and another community I'm involved with too, it's all positive feedback.
yeah,
it's not done in a negative way. And if it is
right,
done in a negative way, they kick him out.
right.
So, you
As
know,
it should
as
be,
it
as
should
it
be.
should be. Yeah,
So, and
because
that's the beauty of these two communities I'm involved with, you know,
yeah,
is that they both have that rule that we're here
yeah.
to help one another and to have fun. So, and
Well,
that's
and
what we
it's
do.
there was a really good quote the other day. I was watching. It was actually is it Robert DeLeo that's the bass player, and he wrote a lot of the songs too. But I think it's Robert that's the bass player in Stone Temple Pilots. Robert DeLeo,
Hmm.
and I think Dean's the guitar player.
Right.
Hopefully, I hadn't got their names swapped. But I was watching a bass clinic thing on YouTube that was Robert by himself, and he was talking about how they wrote a lot of the songs, and he would stop and play some of the parts and stuff, and really interesting,
Hmm.
kind of little seminar thing. And um, one thing that he said during that really stuck with me, somebody had asked the question of, how did you approach, songwriting or just, your music career in general? And I don't remember his exact words, but he said something to the effect of, it's all about staying humble to the music. It's like, respect the music and just do the best that you can to to respect the craft. Try to, just try to do your best to write a good song or play a good performance, and never think that oh, I've got this music thing licked and I can do whatever I want. He said that was our thing, is we always tried to, to keep ourselves in check. Just cause we just had a hit song doesn't mean, that the next
Right.
one's going to be any good, and I thought that was, and that's something that I, is just like, well,
Yep.
just like I said earlier, it's like, well, yeah, I did something the other day, and I felt like it was good, and you get excited because
Mhm.
always the thing that you're working on now is your best thing ever, is typical. But it's like I said, I might look back in a couple of years on the stuff that I did today and think, oh gosh, what was I thinking? I can do so much better than that now. Or
Mhm.
I may look back in 3 or 4 years and say, well, gosh, I wish I could get back to doing the stuff that I did a few years ago. It was a whole lot better than what I'm doing now. You just never know how it's all going
Yep.
to shake out.
Yeah,
So
no, it's
just
true.
stay humble, like he said, just stay humble to the music and do the best you can, and it'll all land somewhere.
Yep. I agree. I agree. That's a great way to end it. I
Yeah.
appreciate that.
Well, thank you, Andy. You're a great guy and a great friend, and I know you and I have swapped a
Hmm.
lot of feedback on songs, and you've helped me out a lot with the comments that you've made. And I just really appreciate guys like you that have that,
And I you.
have that positive mentality,
Right.
and it's a good thing to share music with that
I
kind of community and those kind of people.
could not agree more. Yep. That is so true. That is so true. So, but Mark, well, again, can you say your stuff one more time at the end here? Where
Yeah.
can we find your stuff one more time,
Yeah, to
please?
hear the current stuff, it's Engines of Ruin,
Look at
and
that. He's got merchandise.
yeah, you can even go and buy a shirt. But yeah, well, they've got the website enginesofruin.com if you just want to get in there and buy a hat or a shirt or whatever. But and then Spotify, YouTube Music, Apple Music, all those other places. Definitely, if you want to go over and follow my Spotify page, put a like in on those songs. That's what we all do nowadays, chase likes. I want everybody to
Yep.
like it,
That's what we do.
chase those likes and those streams. So go in
Yeah,
and put it on.
and
Yeah.
support the indie artists, because we
Yeah,
need the support. We really
that's
do,
right.
you know. We do it because we love to do it, and we hope you guys, everybody out there in music land, likes what we give out. And
Like
so
they,
yeah, help support us,
yeah,
please.
like they always used to say, get one for yourself and tell a friend.
Exactly. So, all right, Mark. Well, I do appreciate you coming on 5 and 5 and answering the 10 questions. And this was a lot of fun. And with that said, everybody, adios. We'll talk to you guys later. See you later, Mark. Bye.
See you, Andy.